The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own. Also, trigger warning. The skit for tonight's episode comes from 1 Samuel 28, and we're reenacting Saul's encounter with the witch at Endor. And although the events of this skit are biblical, we do understand that it may be uncomfortable for some viewers and inappropriate for some of our younger viewers. To skip this skit altogether, fast forward to 4 minutes and 31 seconds. Thank you.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
I am not prepared to fight the Philistines tomorrow. I need a word from God. But he has not answered me in dreams, nor by prophets, or by Urim. Servants, find me a medium so that I may inquire of her.
But King Saul, your majesty, you expelled all the witches from the land, and the ones you didn't expel, you killed.
I don't care. I know that there are still some out there, and I don't care how you do it. Just find them.
Now that I think of it, I did hear about a witch that might live in Endor. I'm not sure how credible this is, but I mean, we could go check it out.
Take me there at once.
So what brings you to my lair?
Please conduct a seance for me, and bring up to me the one I shall name for you.
Now you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and the witches from the land. Why are you laying a trap for my life to bring about my death?
As surely as the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing.
Who shall I bring up for you?
Bring up for me the prophet Samuel.
Why have you deceived me? You are Saul.
Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. What do you see?
I see a God coming up out of the earth.
What is his form? What does he look like?
An old man is coming up, and he is wrapped up in a robe.
Yes, that has to be Samuel. What is he saying?
Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?
He says, why have you disturbed him by bringing him up?
I am in great distress. The Philistines are upon me, and God has not even been answering me, not by prophet, nor by dreams, nor by Urim. So you are my only hope. What should I do?
He says,
Why then do you ask me, since the Lord has turned from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done to you as he spoke by me. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David. Because you did not obey the voice of the Lord and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek. Therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will give Israel also with you into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. The Lord will give the army of Israel also into the hand of the Philistines.
This week we are delving into the very interesting circumstances surrounding 1 Samuel chapter 28. Saul was arguably at one of his lowest points, and guess what? He made, surprise, yet another very bad decision. Let us know your thoughts on this chapter. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Thank you all for tuning in again. This week we have a very special guest. I'm Earl Roberts, by the way.
I was about to say you ain't gonna tell him your name, bro.
I got it. My name is Earl Roberts.
My name is Nakhaz Gay, and we have a dear friend of mine, a special guest to me, to myself, somebody I really admire, look up to, known him for about 10 years as well. That's crazy.
Decade, back-to-back weeks.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Back-to-back weeks.
I just want to introduce you all to my boy, Richard.
All right. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here, fellas. Glad to be here.
I'm really looking forward to this podcast, man. We have a great topic. We have a great guest. Not to say all our guests ain't great. This is how I started to shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm really excited. I'm really excited for what Richard's going to bring to the table today. Quick thoughts. So weekly thoughts. So, man, I had so many thoughts bouncing in my head while I was coming here, but it's so interesting. So right when we were outside waiting on Richard to pull up, there's this beautiful rainbow. I don't know if you saw it, Richard.
Crazy
It's
beautiful.
beautiful.
It was
man.
a beautiful, and the funny thing about it, it was actually a full bow.
Right. It looked like a perfect, like, half a spare, bro.
Yeah,
It was bright.
It was perfect. And so many things started to come to my mind too with that, right? But the funny thing about it, like, when you go back in Genesis, the rainbow was a promise after after the flood.
Yeah.
And what started to come to my mind when I saw that was, this too shall pass. That's what came to my mind because, man, I had a crazy week going here, there, everywhere, just bouncing around. Like, I felt myself starting to get stressed. There was another like mass shooting this week. I think it was like 2 of them. Like so many things were just happening in my mental space this weekend. I was just thinking about Noah. Like, imagine Noah going in the flood. All of your loved ones just died. Everyone you knew just died except your immediate family. How much of them was 8 of them in the boat?
Yeah.
8 of them in the boat, in the ark. You know, the world is just going to survive with you. The boat is rocking back and forth. And the only thing you're holding on to is this too shall pass. 40 days, 40 nights, going through tumultuous weather. We see David. We see Joseph. Even before we get to David, we see Noah. We see Joseph. Went through trials, tribulations, got thrown in prison, came out of prison, went in Potiphar's house, got thrown back into prison. But this too shall pass. He went and became the prime minister, second in charge, viceroy of Egypt. And so it's like when we start going through our own struggles in life, when we start going through our own waves, getting tossed from here, there, and everywhere, and we get so lost in what we're going through, it's just good to hold on to this too shall pass. No storm lasts forever. So you was going to say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I believe this was my point last week. I can't remember. Y'all forgive me. But seeing that rainbow today, it was like so, like, I almost got emotional, bro. That rainbow was beautiful.
It
bro.
was beautiful,
I
man.
wish you all listening could have seen that rainbow. Like, it was almost like it was out of nowhere, bro. I have not seen a rainbow that like dominant, like just everything, like you could clearly see this, right? And I started to think about what Noah would have felt when he left the ark. Every time it rained, PTSD. You just remember the world that just died, your aunties, your uncles, everybody. But God has given you the assurance that you're not gonna have to experience that again. You understand what I'm saying? And then I start to think about the current state of the world now, and I think about just Christianity in general. We serve a God that's so merciful and so loving that he literally gave us the playbook. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. A lot of people neglect prophecy. A lot of people, they're very focused on their Christian walk and what should Christians be like X, Y, Z, but they do not take the time to try to uncover what God is promising us in the end. And so I look at this rainbow, and the same way how God promised certain destruction to the world, right? It happened. God gave them the rainbow. This isn't going to happen again. And I look at that rainbow and I say, bro, a different prophecy is coming to play. As in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the end. So this rainbow, I'm just like, bro, the world is over 6,000 years, right? Like, it's like, I don't know exactly, but over 6,000 years ago, that flood, I ain't gonna say 6,000 years ago, but
Around that.
around that time, right? Thousands of years ago, that flood happened. And even to this day, God is still showing us that reminder. I ain't stopping to remind y'all, bro. I keep reminding y'all, but I'll never destroy the world again by flood. And to this day, imagine that happened. Let's say it happened 5,000 years ago, right? A little over 5. 5,000 years later, you still have us the reminder? Because God, he never sleep, he never slumber, and he keeps his promises. You feel me? 5,000 years later, the promise still there, the reminder still there, you know?
So, yeah, you got anything on that?
No, just, I felt the same way. Brightest rainbow I've ever seen. So much so that as I was heading, as I was driving on the road, I took a picture of it, sent it to my parents so they could see it. I've never seen a rainbow so bright, so vivid. It was amazing. Literally, as I was driving, I kept looking back like, man, is this real? Is everyone else seeing this? Mm-hmm. I had my phone out at the red light. I'm looking to the left, looking to the right. Is anybody else recording this? It was so beautiful and it was touching. I felt the same way. I felt like, wow, man. And for me, because of what I'm heading towards, I was thinking, what a wonderful way to kind of, at least in my mind, kind of bring in the Sabbath. I'm going to break bread. I'm going to fellowship
right.
With some brothers in Christ, and I thought, man, what a beautiful way to just set the tone. Because today there's supposed to be some kind of major tropical storm. Mm-hmm. And so when I was sitting there, I'm thinking, man, I hope, anytime I hit the run, I was like, Lord, I ask for safe travel mercy, pray keep your angels carrying my vehicle, and get me safely to my destination. And he did just that.
Amen.
As he always does. And that rainbow kind of is like the icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, that's beautiful, bro. So yeah, man, I'm just glad all of us, had our personal experience with that rainbow. I didn't, bro. I just went out to take out the trash. Usually the people come to get the trash. I'm like, I'll just take it out. You feel me? And I saw that. I almost missed that, but that was beautiful, man. I'm just thankful to God for these little golden nuggets that he leaves for us, just as a reminder of who he is and how much he loves us.
Promise.
Amen and amen. So everyone, we are picking back up in 1 Samuel 28. We left off at the end of verse 2 last week with Wilfredo. Quick synopsis. We know that David was at one of the lowest points he was in his wilderness. We see that he didn't write any Psalms during this time, and this is when he was amongst the Philistines in the city that they gave him. And now at that point, he was, going against raiding the other villages, lying to the king, the Philistine king Achish, saying that he was raiding the Israelites, not really raiding the Israelites. And now Achish had a grand plan that, you know what? I have David on my side. I am going to go up against the Israelite army properly. And now we see David was in a pickle. He was saying to Achish, you know what your servant do? Kind of being disingenuous because now he's about to be found out.
Right.
Because now he's been pretending this last, 14 months?
Yeah, I think it was like 16 months.
16 months, yeah. A year and 6 months or something like that. He's been pretending this whole over a year now that he's been attacking the Israelites, and he really wasn't. Now it's time to rubber meets the road and show Achish that you're really on his side, but now you can't attack your own people. So we see David's in a rock in a hard place. You was going to say something?
No, I wasn't going to say something, but I was thinking, David is in a pickle, like you say.
Yeah.
The man is about to get exposed, bro.
Mercy.
So right now, this whole time, you keep up this facade. Yeah, I'm attacking my own people. And now you're presented with the opportunity. By the way, my mom just keeps teasing me because I will not enunciate my words. So this podcast, I'm going to try my best to enunciate my words.
Get it, Mom. Get it.
Shout out to Mom. But now you're in a pickle because this whole time you gave off the illusion, the facade that you were attacking your own people, and now the opportunity has presented itself for you to do that in front of Achish, right? So Achish is excited about this opportunity because I have the giant slayer on my side. I have the star player from Israel on the Philistine side, and he's been good to me. He's proven himself to me based on his words. And Achish is like, man, this is gonna look good. You're gonna be an asset to me. And David is like, yeah, you're gonna see what I can do. But that's all he could say, because he couldn't say, yeah, I can't wait. He couldn't show his true excitement because he wasn't excited. And then he couldn't tell the truth, like, I don't want to do this. You know what I'm saying? So he had to be neutral, like, yeah, you would see what I can do. You know what I'm saying? Just keeping up with the facade.
Right. Exactly. So, picking up in verse 3, we see now Samuel had died and all Israel had lamented for him, and they buried him in Ramah and in his own city. And Saul had put the mediums and spiritists out of the land. It's so funny, right? Because this is the second time they mentioned Samuel's death. I think the first time they mentioned was in 1 Samuel 25.
Yeah, it's a coincidence. Do you think that's a coincidence?
I don't think it's a coincidence.
Emphasis on the fact that Samuel is dead.
Right.
And like the void he left in Israel.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like we had this saying that we haven't said in a while, but nothing is in the Bible by chance. So if the writers were inspired to write those dots of ink on that parchment paper back in the day, it was there for a reason.
All scripture
Right.
is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, correction, reproof, and instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished in all good works. So what you're saying is facts.
Yes, sir.
2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16.
Yeah. I was saying this, and I'll say it a little louder for
sure.
Or just like say right in the mic. But yeah, you good, man.
Oh, my bad.
And so you was gonna say something, guys?
Yeah, but
Go for it.
I can't. Oh yeah. So I believe that the first time that was mentioned was to help you to understand that now, because Samuel is dead, Saul is going to go crazy pursuing David. There's one last person who kind of was like a parental figure or like a person of truth. He's dead now.
A form of restraint, so to speak.
A form of restraint. I thank you. That was better. But, so now I'm about to go crazy for David, right?
Yeah.
That's why David had to keep fleeing, whatever. This time around, I feel like the same thing is they're reminding us Samuel is dead. And see, it's kind of deceptive when they say "and" as if this just happened. But it couldn't have just happened. This would have had to happen before this day. He had removed all of the familiar spirits and all of the witches and stuff like that from the land. So they're saying Samuel is dead, and now there's no spirits in the land. Remember that. And so this helps you to understand that the next thing that we're going to talk about, Saul can go through without restraint because there's no more Samuel. You understand what I'm saying? So his spiritual leader or the person who he sought out for counsel is no longer here. And so now I can do things that are against God's will. Yeah, exactly, God's will.
God's will. And we see it says, and Saul had put out all the mediums and spiritists out of the land. And we can go back and from Exodus and see why this was done. In Exodus, I have some text pulled up here. Where is it? Exodus 22:18. You shall not permit a sorceress to live.
Yep.
Leviticus 19:31. Do not turn to mediums or speak out to spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God.
Bro, I ain't gonna hold you, bro. There is so much.
Exactly.
Bro,
Leviticus 20 verse 6 and Deuteronomy 18:18. Like all of them just talking about why you should not talk to people who consult the dead, spiritualists, all of them.
Bro, I talking about directly and indirectly.
Well, I was going to say, sometimes folk look at those first couple books and they see the intensity, the strictness in which God is instructing Israel. Like, man, they should not live. No slap on the wrist. Hey, stop that. No. They're not going to live. I mean, God is very serious. So we're dealing with the people who just came out of Egypt. Egypt isn't everywhere. Egypt is Egypt. It's very specific. When I think about the story of Moses, and we were talking about this recently, when Pharaoh's magicians threw down their staff casually, like it wasn't nothing. It wasn't nothing. It's very clear from the scriptures that there was a relationship with principalities that the Egyptians had, and that Israel may have even become accustomed to. And so these people were basically Egyptians. They were pagans.
Exactly.
And they had forgotten the way of the Lord, and the Lord had to be very strict and very specific because he's literally preparing them to be his ambassadors in the earth. And so there was no games.
So this is the thing, right? That's a very valid point, and that's something that a lot of people who do not know a lot about God and who don't understand the Bible well, and people who are looking for a reason to not like God, right? They focus on that, or God wanted you to kill your enemy, this and that and the third. Bro, people don't understand, but we serve a God that's all knowing, right? We see instances where God let stuff slide and the people never change. So what would be different if God was to say, destroy them or get rid of this evilness instantly, or let me let it fester and develop? And let me tell you what I'm trying to get at. If we go to Ezekiel chapter 20, if I'm not mistaken, Ezekiel chapter 20, I think it's verse 6. I'm pulling it up in my Bible right now. God is actually talking about Egypt, right? And he's talking about how he went to the people in Egypt while they were in Egypt, told them to get rid of the idols. They did not listen. You understand what I'm saying? And so I'm paraphrasing y'all. They did not listen, and God felt like, man, I'm going to destroy these people. But no, for the sake of my word, for the sake of the promises I made to Jacob, I'm going to let them rock. God physically appeared to them. This is before Moses. Tell them get rid of the idols. Ezekiel chapter 20, y'all can look this up.
Verse 6 through 8.
Verse 6 to 8, y'all can look this up.
I'm saying.
They did not do it, right? And so let's think about Exodus now. Exodus 20, God gave them the 10 commandments. Moses still on top of the mount. They already worshiping an idol. But think about this. God already told them, do not worship idols. They told God no. God could have destroyed them right then and there. He gave them grace and mercy. But they still went on to worship idols right in the midst of God's face. And then they came to a point where they're like, man, we don't care. We are going to worship idols no matter what. So they had to draw a line in the sand. All right, those who want to worship idols, stand over there. You all will be destroyed. Because, and the Bible keeps saying, purge the wickedness from among you. God understands how lethal and how it can be infectious. You understand? Like this type of wickedness, this spiritual like divination, the spiritual warfare that y'all coming with, it can do more harm than good. And I know in your heart that when y'all get to this point, you all are not going to change. It's not that you're beyond changing, but you're not going to change. And so if God already knows that, I don't understand what would be the difference between him saying, destroy it now, or continue to pacify the situation and let it fester, and more people end up being lost.
You know, it's so funny, man. Like, everything you say is completely valid, right? And in today's day and age, I don't know how you guys feel about this, right? But the devil has watered down his witchcraft in today's day and age. And so many people, including Christians, find it cute to play with the devil. And I mean, I'm going to just be frank with it. Palm readings,
It's in the church.
tarot cards,
In the church.
Ouija boards. These are all form of the dark arts. I mean, let me just be blunt with it. Like, these are all playing with the devil. And it's so interesting time to talk to someone who is a Christian and who swears by these things. And I'm like, Samuel said, rebellion is like divination. Witchcraft, if you read in the King James. Right. And you can kind of see how it's so similar. Because you're really putting yourself on that
spiritual realm,
spiritual warfare.
Like you're depending on the devil for spiritual guidance, you know.
And you take it as gospel.
So this was interesting to me. Exodus 22 verse 18, that's the first thing you said. It said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. But did it say, thou shalt not suffer an evil witch to live? A good witch to live? A medium witch to live? Or does it say a witch to live? So my thing is, I'm not here to say kill people. No, because obviously the New Testament is a different narrative, and it's just different depending on the state that the Israelites were in. That's why them coming out of Egypt was a different time, different culture, different instructions compared to when the fullness of time had come when Jesus was coming around. Because Jesus, all the things, it's like Jesus was like, yo, y'all heard, love your enemies. Love your neighbors and hate your enemies, right? But I tell you, love your enemies, right? Pray for those who persecute you, XYZ. Jesus, he's elaborating on the law that was already gave before, right? The thing, what I'm saying is, what law in the Old Testament that was punishable by death then is now permissible now in the New Testament, New Covenant, anything. Name any law that y'all think. You understand what I'm saying? And this me getting on my soapbox because I feel like the Sabbath is one of them laws where they try to push it in with, oh, we should kill adulterers. You know what I'm saying? We should kill witches, this and that and that. I ain't telling you to kill, but I'm asking you, which one of these things that God asks to purge away is now justifiable in the New Testament, New Covenant, in the Bible? You know what I'm saying? And so it's funny, bro, remember we was talking about this conversation very recently with people doing spells and stuff like that on their boss and stuff like that.
Man, oh man.
I didn't even put two and two together with the text that we reading for today, bro. Because to me, this is so weird because I've had multiple Christian people, more than one person, born and raised at Venice, tried to talk to me about witchcraft and tried to tell me that their version of witchcraft points them to Jesus. This might sound wild to some of the listeners. I'm not even trying to be funny. They have shared with me that when they practice this or that form of witchcraft, the entire time they're praying to Jesus. You know? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so if Jesus tells you this is detestable to me. This is an abomination to me. You're turning around and saying, this is what I'm giving to you. Or this is Jesus, I know you say this is abomination, but this is the only way I'm talking to you. Or this is the way I'm talking to you when I need you the most.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You feel me?
Cain and Abel, man.
Yeah.
My sacrifice is going to be acceptable to you regardless of what you said.
Exactly. I'm giving you what I want to give you.
Exactly. But yeah, like in the essence of progressing the story, I'm gonna like kind of hold this point. But the main thing I want to encourage people, I mean, because we're really going to get into this and expound on these points deeper because we didn't even really get to the meat of the story yet. But if you practice these things, and if you do all these things that are so ritualistic, like, play with crystals to affect your chakra and all these kind of stuff, do your research on where it originated from. That's my biggest thing to you. Do your research on where it originated from and pray and really come to discernment to ask yourself, is this really of God?
Right.
Of Jesus.
Of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because like Kazi said, like we have multiple examples in the Bible where Jesus, God, the one true God, says what he accepts and what he does not accept and what he detests. And there are certain things, especially playing with the devil. That's like how I call it. Playing with the devil. Be playing with the dark arts. They don't end good for you.
No.
I personally
It's
feel
other
like,
times as well.
bro, and I personally feel like when it comes to worshiping idols and divination, the Torah, first 5 books of the Bible, mainly Exodus through Deuteronomy, they talk about that a lot. They talk about that like a crazy amount. When you read it, you're like, oh man, what? Every 4 chapters they talking about this?
It was a big issue.
It's a big issue, and you can see that God is very passionate about that. He keep talking about it, Bro, if you just read Deuteronomy alone, you would understand where God stands or not, and that should be a shut case.
That's it.
You know?
And that's why the scriptures are a safeguard. We are instructed to test the spirits, whether they be of God. A very popular verse is Isaiah 8 verse 20, to the law and to the testimony, if it speaks not according to his words, because there's no light in it. And so if you want to know if something is approved of God, if it's okay for you to do, if it's biblical, go to the word. And you don't have to wonder about it.
Man, oh man, Isaiah, they're coming back to that when we get further. Coming right back to that. The verse right above it too. Coming right back to that and eventually. But yeah, man, that's a good verse. So Isaiah 8 verse 19. Ooh, I coming back to that. Anyway, so in verse 4 of 1 Samuel 28, we see the Philistines gathered together, and they came and encamped in Shunem. So Saul gathered all Israel together, and they encamped in Gilboa. When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. So think about it. Like, I just want to paint the picture from Saul's perspective. What does Saul know? There's a Philistine army coming against me right now, the full Philistine army.
Yeah.
But who is with them? In Saul's mind, even though he doesn't know the truth or not, who is with them?
David.
Your biggest enemy. You ain't even more so worried about the Philistines.
Right.
You're worried about the man who you know is coming for your kingdom and who you perceive God has got on his side.
Yep.
So now you're like,
You worried.
this is something I know for a fact.
Yeah. It looked bad.
It
looked bad for him. It looked bad on him. No, for real, because like the Philistine, see, historically, we talk about the Philistines too much times on this part. Because that's just so much times it happened in the Bible, right? These are big enemies of the Israelites. That's one person you got to deal with, right? And then you have your mortal enemy, Saul's the threat to your throne, the threat to your son's throne, all of that. He lives among them. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what their relationship is. So on paper, it just looks like 2 of your enemies have merged. David and his men with the Philistines. And David is a worse enemy to have to fight against because he knows he's fought with you all. He knows inside information about how y'all think, how y'all operate. He used to be a commander, He knows the town better than anybody else. And then to make matters worse, the Philistines have been successful during David's absence, And so it does look bad.
A lot of ground.
Yeah, they're gaining a lot of ground. So it does look bad, like you say.
And so we see his heart trembled greatly. And so, reading from verse 6, and when Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, either by dreams, or by Urim, or by the prophets. So we see now Saul in his desperation, now he's scrambling. He's like, David's coming against me. The Philistine king is coming against me. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Now, let me try to figure out what God wants me to do. Now, let me get some type of prophecy from God. What we see is silence.
Silence. But do you recall him consulting God when he was, pursuing David?
Nope.
But even when you remember that time when the what they call the snitch people, they was keep snitches.
The Ziphites.
The Ziphites. When the Ziphites were saying he among us, and he's like, oh, surely God has given him into our hands, right?
Nope.
Do you call him talking to God then?
Nope.
No, but wasn't he convinced that God had given David over to his hands?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the next, you was going for it?
Well, I was going to say this isn't a prayer from a contrite heart. You know what I mean? He's looking for a genie in a bottle situation.
Right.
Quite literally.
It's
yeah.
really, it's presumption. Hence, the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. I don't know. I kind of feel like, man, could it be possible that Saul had at this point already committed the unpardonable sin? Had he grieved the Holy Spirit to the point to where he can no longer receive from the Lord?
So, you remember you said he didn't come with a contrite heart. You understand what I'm saying? There's something we gotta remember before. Saul had, you remember the first time the Philistines was attacking them, right?
Yeah.
Saul, he anxious, and he wanna win, basically. Saul does not want to lose in battle, and you can see that. Anyway, Saul don't want to lose. So he took matters into his own hands, right? And he didn't wait for Samuel to offer sacrifices. He offered sacrifices by himself. We can see this type of thing consistently happening with Saul, right? We don't even have evidence that Saul actually came to God the right way or with a contrite heart anytime that he came to God. But we do have evidence of? David was a man inspired by God. And you could see that the Lord was with him, right? You noticed that and you still ran him away, right? Samuel, you tried to kill, right? We know the Lord was with Samuel for sure. You tried to kill him. And then if that does not make matters any better, you killed some, 70 priests?
About 80.
About 80 priests of the Lord.
And their families.
And their families, like women and children, anyone who lived in that city, you killed, right? And so it's like, when we really think about Saul, was this man actually trying to consult God at any point in time during these last years when he was pursuing David? He had already shown God that, bro, I am your enemy. I am killing your priests. I'm killing your prophets. I'm trying to kill your anointed. Now, David, on the other hand, is also anointed. Saul continues to try to kill David, right? And he does not have any remorse, but David tears off a piece of his garment and is conscience stricken, right? Saul is actively pushing away God and pushing away God's conviction. Now, I don't know if he had reached the point of unpardonable. I personally, I could see Saul repenting.
Choice words.
Personally, right? I could see I believe if Saul had repented, perhaps. But I believe Saul was tormented by the devil, and Saul allowed himself to be tormented by the devil or to be associated with the devil by his actions, trying to kill God's anointed multiple times, Yeah.
I think like in Romans 1 where it says like God just gives them over to their selfish desires.
Yeah. In essence, that's what the unpardonable sin is, because God is always looking to save. But if you keep pushing and keep resisting to the point to where, in a sense, you can no longer hear the Holy Spirit. Your heart is hardened. You mentioned Pharaoh earlier, similar to that. Pharaoh hardened his heart against the Lord. Then you get to the point to where, God can no longer, because he stands at the door and knocks. He's not forcing himself on you.
Exactly.
And so you get to that point, and that's why it's unpardonable. It's not that the Lord's not willing, but it's just that you've gotten to the point to where you aren't willing, really.
Yeah, you cement yourself into that. And let me tell you, you could see, this is my thing, you could see the evidence of him not being contrite because he trying to win this battle by any means necessary. Not by thus saith the Lord, by any means necessary.
Desperation.
So.
And so, yeah. In verse 7, we see then Saul said to his servants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And so this is just just to read again in verse 3.
Right.
We see in verse 3, it specifically says, and Saul had put all the mediums and spiritists out of the land.
Now, I wonder why he did that. I wonder if Samuel has something to do with that.
Right. And so, right to the point,
You
they
know what I mean?
mention Samuel and they say that Saul had did all of this. You understand what I'm saying? So he could have been inspired by Samuel. He could have instructed, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we know that he is in compliance with the law, with the Torah, by getting rid of all the familiar spirits.
Right.
But now the Bible paints the picture. That's why it's so important. Even all of the towns that's mentioned, everything important. You got to know what town when they say what towns mentioned. Consider what towns mentioned. That help you to understand how far the Philistines have getting, how far is the distance with this or that. You know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is, ain't no Samuel now to stop this. So now Saul can he's unsupervised.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if you look at where Endor was actually closer to the Philistines camp than to the Israelite camp. So again, we can see the mediums were pretty much cast out of the land. So the reason why I bring that up is it really shows that how much out of his way Saul actually did go to go seek out this medium. Because he already did kick them out of all of the land. So they weren't really not in the land. They were still in the outskirts. But it's still kind of interesting that he didn't really fully do his job because they were still there. And as the king, he knew they were still there. Because he was like, go find one. I know they're still here somewhere. Like, I know I ain't do that good of a job to kick them all out. So go find me one. And so, and I'm going to just keep on reading. And so, and his servants came back to him and said, in fact, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor, forever known as the Endor witch, as we're going to start calling her. And so, medium, I'm going to get back to the word medium. I don't know if you had something to say.
King James, they say she have a familiar spirit, just for context.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you start getting to this word medium, right, and when I start to dig into it, right, the Hebrew word started to come back for someone like who mumbles and gets back in like almost like a trance, like really using you as a medium to stand in the place of the spirit or presence. And it's kind of crazy. It almost came back to the same word as like ventriloquism, like people who essentially channel in another spirit to speak through a puppet. And so it's really interesting how the meanings of how these things were translated start to come back in full circle when we actually start to think of the things we interact with in daily life. And how, quick side tangent, a lot of actors, right?
Okay, we better go there.
Yeah, we about to go there. My apologies. We don't want to go there.
No, I would love to go there. I'd love to go there.
A lot of actors, when they acting for a big role, do you know what they say? It's one thing I commonly hear say, I'll put it on me. One thing I commonly hear say, I need to channel that character.
Choice words.
And it's interesting how much things are in our face, and we just eat it up and just let it blow by us. But think about it. What are they saying? I am channeling that spirit of that character. I'm becoming that character.
I'm becoming a medium for that character.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, we have examples of actors who act so well that they lose themselves. Without getting specific about names, I've heard of actors, even in recent movies, that have been hits amongst certain communities where they had to get help after to get out of character, get counseling, to get out of therapy, to get out of character, who have even lost their lives and have been warned by other people. I don't know if you, there's a movie called The Batman.
That's who I was thinking of too. Yep.
And the old Joker, I believe his name Jack Nicholas, warned Heath Ledger about this
character.
role and getting too deep into this role. Be careful. That's just one example. There's many others. I was sharing one recently. And so I've even heard of some actors who quite literally, on set, channel, go in a corner and channel. And so who are the best actors? Think about it. I mean, in the beginning, Satan used a serpent as a medium to communicate with Eve. And you know, and there's some serious acting going on here in the text, because in verse 3 it says Samuel was dead. So who's this guy? Like, we about to get there.
We about to get there. We
Okay.
about to get there. We about to get there. Cause he was going for something.
Bro, nah, yeah, I feel like y'all covered all my points. You know what I'm saying?
So again, we see Saul disguised himself and put on other clothes. Think about it. We'll go.
Go for it, bro.
You can talk.
Okay. You know, darkness loves disguise. I think it's interesting that Saul put on an outfit. So the all the witches and mediums were banned from the land by him.
By him,
Right.
specifically him.
And then he gets to a point of desperation soon thereafter and says, hey, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, a woman who's in connection with a principality, basically, who I can get answers from, because I can't get answers from God. And then he disguises himself. And I would imagine he didn't want to be exposed. He didn't want to be seen.
And think about it. And I know we mentioned it right too, but think about it. I can't put on the crown that I was anointed by God with, because I know what I'm about to do is not holy or sanctified. I need to put on a disguise. I need to cozy up myself with the environment I know I'm going into, because this environment is not of God. I can't come in how I should be. I have to disguise myself. I have to be a phony to go into this to go into this arena. And it kind of brings me back to kind of something we were talking about before the part, like when you know when you know you're in a compromising position, but you're still there, even when the spirit is tugging at your heart.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to show the lengths that Saul has to go, because right now to him he's desperate. I have to do this.
Right. You felt that way.
Let's get it.
Man. And so he disguised himself when he went in, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. So we see not only he changed his clothes, he went in the cover of the darkness. So it's already going to be hard to see me. And if you see me, you're going to second guess, because surely that can't be the king going there to that witch, because the king banned that witch. And you know what? It's night. It doesn't really look like the king, but it's the height of the king, because remember, Saul was still ahead above pretty much all the other Israelites. So he's still easy to spot out in a crowd.
Oh yeah,
Must
he's
have been a
tall.
tall brother.
He's a tall dude.
So it's just so interesting. And he said, please conduct a seance for me. I'm not sure exactly what the King James says right there.
I got you right now. King James says,
I pray thee divine unto me by the familiar spirit,
Being
and
divine
bring
unto me.
him up, whom I shall name unto thee.
Exactly. And then in this verse it says, please conduct a seance for me and bring up for me the one I shall name to you. And the reason why I like this seance, just in this version, this is the New King James, is it's a word that we're familiar to in today's day.
yeah, it's blunt. It ain't romanticized.
No.
See, like someone can say spirituality, and you might not think that they mean with like
New Age, spiritualism.
Yeah, spiritualism.
Witchcraft.
Spiritualism. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Spiritualism, not spirituality. Spiritualism.
Right.
And you don't think they mean witchcraft and just different spirits and this and that. Divination, it sounds close to divine. You understand what I'm saying?
Almost sound good.
Yeah, it sounds good. Like it sounds smooth. You understand what I'm saying? But when you say seance, it's like, whoa.
Because you know the imagery that instantly invokes.
Right. Exactly. But that's what's happening. You feel me? But it's also called divination. You understand what I'm saying? It's also called spiritualism, you know?
And the woman said to him in verse 9, look, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Why then do you lay a snare for my life to cause me to die? And I don't know if any of y'all found this. I find this kind of funny. One, at this point, she doesn't know who she's talking to. But she knows she's a witch. She ain't never saying, I don't do this. Because usually, I don't know, and someone come to me and I doing something I know I shouldn't be doing. And I don't do that.
Right.
I ain't denying. She's saying, but why you coming to me if you know you shouldn't be coming to me?
Right.
But I don't think she know that Saul she talking to.
No, but I'm saying she don't know it's Saul, right?
Right.
But she's saying like, I just find it funny that this her first thing to say. You know Saul cut off all the medium stuff. Why you trying to lay a snap? Like, why you trying to catch me like this? But she ain't denying that she don't do it.
Right.
She's saying like, why you trying to lay, like you want to see me perform this so you could like have proof?
I think that's her testing the waters. You know I ain't supposed to be doing this
Right.
now. This and that and the third. But to see how they react, you feel me?
She really, I felt like they were trying to finesse her, basically. Right? The woman said, "Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those who have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die?"
Like, yeah, you trying to trap me.
Yeah, I see what you're doing.
And so in verse 10, and Saul swore to her by the Lord,
Mercy.
as the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing. And I just find that just
Oxymoronic a little.
yes,
And borderline blasphemous. I mean,
Blasphemous,
it's like,
man.
yo,
like
talking about taking the name of the Lord in vain.
Right.
by Jehovah.
Right. I swear by God
Man.
that you will not be punished for doing this thing that God does
Detests.
not detest. Right.
So he's lying, first of all. You know what I'm saying? They're saying he's not talking to you right now. Right? Just a few verses earlier. The Lord answered him not. So how can you swear by one who's answering you not?
Right.
This is just, this is desperation on Saul's part.
See, but that's him. That's his way of saying, bro, I promise you that Saul ain't gonna kill you for this. Or I'm not gonna snitch to Saul. You know what I mean?
Man.
But that's how desperate he is, bro. I'll swear by God. See, we see people swear to God multiple times, right? But it usually be serious. But Saul is not against swearing to God. Saul swear to God 3 times already from my recollection, and he was wrong on 3. Well, I ain't gonna say he was wrong with this one because he didn't have to be put to death. But he swear that he was gonna kill Jonathan. He swear that he was gonna kill David. Both of them, he did not kill. You see what I'm saying? So he swear to God. He let that fly all the time. But that's his way of saying, bro, I am serious about this. That's from what I get from Saul's behavior, you know?
So in verse 11, the woman said, whom shall I bring up for you? And he said, he being Saul, bring up Samuel for me.
So, I just want to speak on this really quickly.
Go for it.
Bring me up, Samuel. Now, in verse 3, it says, now Samuel was dead. The Israelites in King Saul had a knowledge of the state of the dead. There was no confusion on that point. And I believe maybe is it in the chapter before this? It mentions that Samuel was dead a few times.
Yes. First Samuel 25. A few chapters before.
So
Samuel been dead at this point.
he's been dead.
Yeah.
He's been dead. There's no question about it. So for him to say, hey, bring me so when the witch of Endor said, hey, whom shall I bring up to thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. Saul, knowing Samuel was dead, I find this interesting. What are you really looking for here?
But you know what's so telling to me? It's telling to me because, all right, man, I want to go. Anyway,
Go there.
so immortality of the soul. The first deception, some people look at it as, because God said you will die if you eat of the fruit. And the devil replied,
Hath God said, you will not surely die.
Right? So the word surely, even when I used to read that as a child, I used to be like, you might have a point there. But what does that mean? Like that word is so like,
You're not going to really die.
right, it's like, but did you die though?
Right, but you died though.
Right. But it's
Yeah,
like, it's saying you're going to die, but you're not going to die forever. You feel me? Like you're not going to, it ain't going to be a sure death. You understand what I'm saying? Like this ain't going to be a definitive death. You feel me?
Right.
A lot of people subscribe to that.
For sure.
Pagans 100% believe you are reincarnated or our ancestors are somewhere in the spiritual realm praying over us, all type of stuff. But I want to focus on Christians because Christians believe that a lot of Christians,
Many
you understand what I'm saying? Protestant, Catholic, for the most part, they believe that you die, you go to heaven, or perhaps you die, you in hell. Currently, you understand what I'm saying? So let me ask you this: let's say in a world that was true, why did Samuel come up? Why didn't he come down?
Good
If this is the
point.
prophet of God, wouldn't he be in heaven?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And see, this is so telling to me because the devil snitched on himself,
Hmm.
right? The devil know the state of the dead, right? And so if the devil was trying to play it off, like let's say that if they were truly in heaven, he would have done it the right way. Came down, he would have came down. You understand? But at the end of the day, the devil know that he truly dead. So the devil have to make it seem like I'm bringing Samuel from the grave because the dead know nothing. Samuel's supposed to be dead.
Right.
So the devil is trying to make it seem like I'm gonna bring up Samuel, and so logically he would come from the grave. You understand? That's why he came from up, right? And to me, this text right here, it actually proves that the dead know nothing, bro. That actually these people are not in heaven or in hell at the moment. It's plenty text. Every knee shall bow when Jesus return. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's plenty. Like you feel me? It's so much text to disprove that people are actually in heaven right now. This and that and the third. And I understand, ladies and gentlemen, and I do have compassion because this is an actually sticky subject because
It can be.
Yeah, it can be. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people have mixed reviews or mixed interpretations of the Bible on this or different theologies that was being taught to them. But the point I'm trying to make is this.
Keyword.
Samuel, quite literally, in no way, no matter how you slice it, would be coming from the ground, would be coming from the bottom. If this was actually Samuel, and he was the way your people say in heaven, he would have came from the top. If this was actually Samuel and he was dead, he's not coming back up because he is dead. You understand what I'm saying? So quite literally, the person who wrote this in the Bible, they already assume that we understand the state of the dead. You understand what I'm saying? And if you don't understand it now, you're going to understand it when you go through the Bible. So it don't come out and say, but it wasn't really Samuel, X, Y, Z. But then when we read in Chronicles,
1 Chronicles 10:13.
you understand when we read in 1 Chronicles 10:13.
What does the Bible say?
They said, the Bible, you have the text, right? You have the
Yeah,
text.
I have it pulled up. So Saul died for his unfaithfulness, which he had committed against God because he did not keep the word of the Lord, and also because he consulted a medium for guidance, but he did not inquire of the Lord. Therefore, he killed him and turned him over to David, the son of Jesse.
So at this point in time, the Bible is telling you that he did not consult the Lord. So how could he have gotten to Samuel?
Right there. Hold your point, Richard. Let me just read the story so that you could catch up to where we at.
Oh,
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So in verse 13, in verse 12. So the woman saw Samuel. She cried with a loud voice. And the woman spoke to Saul, saying, "Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul." And the king said to her, "Do not be afraid. What did you see?" The woman said to Saul, "I saw a spirit ascending out of the earth." So he said to her, "What is his form?" Then she said, "An old man is coming up, and he is covered with a mantle." And Saul perceived it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed down. So I'm gonna just stop there and we could talk. So it's to Kazi's point, just to piggyback off his point. I don't know, Rich, I'm gonna let you go though.
Well, yeah,
I see you over here. I'm gonna let you go.
Man, look, I think it's interesting choice of words. Saul says he perceived.
Exactly.
Doesn't say it was. He says he perceived it to be. And so the Bible's not co-signing. The Bible doesn't co-sign deception. There's no conflict of the scriptures. And so I think what we're going to find here is that the Bible will make it very plain who this is and who's being consulted and what's taking place here. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, beginning at verse 5. Just not going to linger on this point. Just want to speak on it briefly.
Okay, go for it.
Says that the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Neither have they any more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their envy has perished. They have nothing to do with anything going on under the sun. The Bible is very clear that, from dust you are, to dust you shall return. When God formed man from the dust of the ground and he breathed into his body the breath of life, he became a living soul. So we don't have a soul. We are a soul. Dust plus breath of life equals living soul. This is one of the enemy's chief deceptions, and not just in this time, but throughout human history, and even these last days. And it's something that, as believers, and even if you're not, we ought to be equipped with a knowledge of truth, that we may have a safeguard against what's taking place here, because this is spiritualism.
Mm-hmm. Point blank.
Yeah.
Point blank.
I so mad I jumped the gun, bro.
No, it's all good.
I
It's
am
all good.
upset that I jumped the gun.
It's all good. It's all good.
You can tell I really wanted to get that point
Yeah,
over.
I know. As I was like, I'm gonna let them go. It's all good, man. And to me, it's a couple of things to point out too. One, it's going back to the medium part of it, just especially for this beginning part. Saul does not see what this woman is seeing.
Right. So
She sees the spirit. Saul is asking her questions to try to decipher, is it Samuel that he's seeing? And he doesn't know for sure because he clearly is not seeing what she is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So he is not seeing what he's seeing. So now it goes back to the medium part of it. She is channeling a spirit.
Right.
Now, I know everyone out there who's probably listening, hopefully, if not, has seen some movies where the woman or whoever is there in front of the crystal ball channeling and the spirit is talking through the woman. Mm-hmm. This is in Earl's head canon what is happening because we can see for a fact Saul does not know what spirit this woman is seeing. Right. When he heard about it, he instantly stooped with his face to the ground. Now we see the Bible start to say, and Samuel said to Saul, but it's this spirit speaking through this woman who Saul is now communicating with. Not, and we already know, because Kazi already identified this one, I'll go through some points later, but we already know this spirit is not, for a fact, not Samuel. Right. But Saul is talking to a spirit. That part is not.
That's facts.
That is a fact.
That's what it is.
So you know what I'm saying? So like that. So Saul is talking to a spirit that is being channeled through this witch, and this witch is talking to a demon, guys. Let's just not sugarcoat it. And here's a couple of things too. We know from several chapters throughout this in 1 Samuel, Saul was being troubled by an evil spirit because he has hardened his heart. He has turned away from God. And now when you pull away from the presence of God, it's not that God sends an evil spirit to you, but God removes his protection from you. And so now you open yourself up to be afflicted by evil spirits. So now we already know evil spirits are already surrounding Saul and affecting him. And the only peace he was getting was when David played a harp. And what did he do? He drove away the only thing that was protecting him from his presence away from God, because guess what? David was God's anointed. So you bring David around you, you're bringing back the presence of God by you by hook or by crook, but you drove away that from you.
Kill that.
Exactly. And so now you're affected by evil spirits. And now when your own spiritual guide has vanished, disappeared, died in the ground, to dust you shall return. Your back is against the wall. You have no idea what to do. You've been troubled and tormented. And now and you killed pretty much all the other prophets at this point, all the other priests. You're like, what's left? What's left? And now you go and consult the very thing that God detests even more than anything else.
Being used.
Exactly.
Yeah. I even think, for him to go and slaughter all those priests, that's, in my mind, a form of demon possession.
For sure.
You have to be.
Bro, for sure.
Just be slaughtered and taking life like that. That's
but this the thing, bro.
He's already in cahoots.
This is what you gotta understand, bro. He tell his men to slaughter the priests.
Yeah. They was like, nope.
They said, no, I'm not doing that. No one would do it. He had to get a Edomite, Doeg, the Edomite, who was the chief of the sheep.
The shepherds, yeah.
The shepherd, to kill him. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Saul was see, that's the thing. When earlier, I think in chapter 14, Saul had swear to kill Jonathan. And all of his men was like, no, Jonathan do a good thing today. We're not gonna let you kill him. And Saul let it dead. I'm squashing the beef. Right. That time with all of the priests, his men would not want to do it. And Saul didn't let it go. Saul went and got the only man probably in all of Israel who would have done that, who was not an Israelite, Doeg the Edomite. And so I feel like Saul was tormented, bro. Saul was possessed, bro. And so that led him to do some heinous things, Yeah. And now he at the point of no return, and now he completely given himself over to the devil because he knows this is not of God. And he like, bro, I need help. Right. So if the devil can help me, I'll take that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
That's what he said.
As the next thing too, well, this is a completely different point. I think that woman was a fraud. and this, well, this just me making some fun of it, right? Speculation, right? Because think about it. She was shocked when she actually saw something coming up. We know a lot of, okay, the devil can't perform miracles. He can only impersonate them. He has powers, but he impersonates what God can do. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So a lot of these
Deception.
is a lot of deception. So I'm saying
Deception.
I'm reading crystal balls and stuff, smoke and mirrors. When
It's a counterfeit as well.
when human beings resort to those levels, you're already in a desperate place. And if you're desperate, you're gullible.
Exactly.
So you come to me, slip me some 20 gold francs or something.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you want, hell. That's let's be frank. That's a lot. That's what a lot of it is.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of it is.
There's a lot of
So
moving
now
shit
she's going through her ritual. She's like, whoa, I'm actually seeing something. Whoa, you Saul? You see, instantly she was like, nothing Saul ever gave it away. She saw something for real. Like I played the dark arts, but it's like I went from watching Harry Potter to actually going to the wizarding world and actually casting spells, which is the next thing we could talk about a different day. But people literally out here casting spells, guys. Be prayed up. Be prayed up. But she saw something, she's like, whoa, what happened? She cried over the loss, but she was shocked that she was actually seeing something actually for real happening.
Right.
And then she instantly like, this only could be Saul. Like, what you really doing to me here?
Right.
Like, you really got me in this predicament now. Like, what's happening? But
When I read that, I interpret it as she was scared for her life the whole time because she might not have done it in a while. Now she have a new client. And people like business might have been dry because, you could die for this, right? So now she got a new client.
Yeah.
He seemed to be rich, because the king, obviously he ain't pack no bummy clothes, I don't think. You feel me? So this is a rich guy, pretty tall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
this might be Saul. You feel me?
The Gucci raiment.
Yeah, right.
Gucci
He's dripped, right? And then on top of that, you asking for the prophet Samuel. And it's like, this is a dead, like, this is how I interpret it. That was a dead giveaway, that this was actually Saul. And now, because this is Saul, I am scared for my life.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because you remember she was a little nervous from before, but please, y'all setting a snare for me. But then when she sees Samuel come up, she like, oh, Lord.
Or, I mean,
this Saul, like, about to die.
the next interpretation could be, and this again in my head canon, it could have been a more powerful demon that she was used to dealing with. Because I haven't said this in a while too, but think about it. If the devil took a third of the heavenly host, and we know angels had different ranks in heaven.
There's levels to it.
There's definitely levels to the angels.
In their specialties.
Exactly. So she might have gotten a big boss that she was not prepared for. Go for it.
What?
Go for it.
But so, like, if we think about it as angels who use their powers for evil, because essentially on a low level, that's what it is. And on a high level, that's what it is. But
High key.
yeah, high key, you feel me? But even God talks about angels who excel in strength.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And that adds contrast. So, some angels, they excel in strength. Like, this is what they do. You understand what I'm saying? Some angels, for different reasons, whatever. Yeah. But all we know is for sure, the devil was tormenting Saul. And now we know a demon has came to visit this witch at Endor. You know what I'm saying? And she was astonished, for sure. Right. She was astonished. Right.
They take advantage of the situation. As the Bible says, the devil cometh but to steal, kill, and destroy. So the whole name of the game is destruction.
I got something for that too, boy.
Send as many of these descendants of Adam to a Christless grave as possible. It's the name of the game. When your fate is sealed, what are you doing? What more can you do? And how can you wag your fist at a God of love, but to harass and torment and seek to destroy those whom He died for? And so that's ultimately all this is.
Yeah,
that's all it is today.
So I'm gonna keep reading in verse 15. Now Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" And Saul answered, "I am deeply distressed. For the Philistines make war against me, and God has departed from me and does not answer me anymore, neither by the prophets nor by the dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may reveal to me what I should do." Then Samuel said, Why do you ask me, seeing that the Lord has departed from you and has become your enemy, and the Lord has done for himself as he spoke by me, for the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David. because you do not obey the voice of the Lord, nor execute his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore, the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with you into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow you will and your sons will be with me. And the Lord will also deliver the army of Israel into the hand of the Philistines.
All right, so back to my point. He comes in, why did you disturb me?
Why did you disturb me?
Why
did you bring me up?
Stop the cap.
Hey, stop the cap. To me, if you from the Bible understand what the Bible says, like the text in Ecclesiastes, the dead know nothing. You understand what I'm saying? Right. So with this being said, for all those who think this was actually Samuel, why was he coming up from the bottom? Was he in hell? Or was he in his grave? You understand what I'm saying? And if he is in his grave, I feel like that's a dead giveaway to the credence, to the idea that the dead know nothing. You understand? You go in your grave and you will be there unless God translates you up, or unless when the dead in Christ rise, or in the second resurrection, where, ladies and gentlemen, none of us want to be. You feel me? But the devil, this was years ago. This is thousands of years ago before he perfected his theology of the immortality of the soul. And so now, only thing he can do is make it seem like this guy actually coming from the dead, where in real life, that's where you're going to be, in the ground, dead. You feel me?
Why have you disturbed me?
Right. You feel me? So he had to make it seem like this was actually Samuel who was in the grave. And so he had to bring him up from the bottom.
And, I saw you had a point. I
was going to say, you know, if Samuel was in heaven, right? The point you mentioned, why is he not coming down? Then why the response? You know, why are you disturbing me?
Disturbing you from what?
From what? Just disturb you. What are you doing?
From what? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much? Or if you in heaven looking down on us, watching like everybody's saying, you wouldn't know exactly why I quote unquote disturb you, and it wouldn't have been a disturbance because you would have already seen and known.
And then also, if he was in heaven, how would he be able to be gotten hold of through this means?
Right.
That's the point I was getting.
A witch can be like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm picking and choosing. You come through.
And in heaven, you have no say, you know, why are you disturbing me? You know, go do this favor. Foolishness.
See,
you know, and to a certain extent, it's not even.
Let's expand that a little more.
Okay.
Right? God is ignoring you.
Right.
Ooh, that's my next point.
Oh no, go for it.
Go for it. Y'all doing good. Y'all doing good.
Go, speak on that, brother.
Good.
Speak on that.
So it's two things, right? And here's a question I'm gonna throw out, right? to your first point, right?
His point.
Well, I'm gonna come back to this point, right? Okay. Wait a minute, I'm gonna start with this one. God already was not answering you.
Right.
God was not answering you, and by which means that you have to try to go contact a man of God through the dark arts,
right,
where God is not present in.
Right.
Here's my next thing, right? For people who argue that this is Samuel, first of all, we already see God was not answering him. Samuel said that himself. I mean, Saul said that himself, and Saul repeated that to the Spirit. God is not answering me. Can the devil bring forth life?
And then with Samuel, make it make sense. Samuel rebelling against God?
Exactly. By answering you.
Come on.
And the reason why can the devil bring forth life? Because the only way the dead can be revived is by the power of God. The devil cannot do that.
No.
The only way the dead can be revived is through God.
Yeah.
So the mere fact that Saul went to someone who performed a dark arts, by the very definition, by God's holy power, it could not have been Samuel that came back. Because the devil has no power over the dead. And people got to remember, one of Satan's ultimate goal is to prove that God's law cannot exist. But why does Satan have to use a created being? Because Satan could not create a human race or a race of any sort to actually enact his own rule over. So he had to go
usurp authority.
He had to usurp authority from beings God already created. So Satan has no power over life or death.
No.
And he knows that. But he tries his best. He tries his best to imitate it.
Imitation.
As best as he could. So by no means can Satan bring forth the dead. So by no means if you talk to a dead spirit, anybody, if you go to a witch, to a necromancer, as we call them nowadays, people who talk to the dead, and you're talking to a spirit,
Right.
sad to say, that ain't your grandpa who talking to you.
It's not. It's not.
That ain't your Grammy.
It's not.
Because through
It might
these,
sound like them.
it might sound like them, and you might have
Look
all the
like them.
feelings
Look like
and
them.
the
Tell you something
emotions.
only they knew.
Right.
The whole nine. But this is part of the deception. Deception has to be believable.
Bing.
And it has to pull on your heartstrings to convince you that this is true. It's the first thing Christ told his disciples in Matthew 24: "Be not deceived."
It's so, bro. It's so. I mean, it's so much speculation we could go into this as to how it doesn't make sense, bro.
Right.
Like quite literally, like so much we could get down to.
I got one more text. I don't know.
No, go on.
Let me send my text so we can get back to your point. In Revelation 16:14. For they are spirits of demons, performing signs which go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. And the reason why that text came to me too, we see there are spirits of demons performing signs which go out to kings. And what are we seeing right here? A spirit of a demon performing a sign. That is very convincing. Very, very convincing. I mean, shoot, if I was there, I mean, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Let's just be honest. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Like, we know
deception.
It's a perfect deception, but he's going out to the spirit, he's going out to the kings, and to gather everyone against God, a battle against God. And we see this as Satan's act.
Bro, you remember earlier when we were saying Satan can't do miracles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's permitted by God. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we can see where in Egypt these was replicas of miracles. So we come to a point where it's the diviners was saying, "Oh, we can't do that. Only God can do that, right?" But it will come a time when the very elect will be deceived because the false prophets, false messiahs will do Antichrist will do signs and wonders, if possible, bringing including bringing fire from heaven. You understand what I'm saying? That's real. You understand? That's a miracle, fire from heaven, right? He probably gonna be healing, preaching, and teaching. You understand? And so the point I'm making is, obviously God is the creator, right? But as we progress in this world, bro, as prophesied, it will be a time when you see the devil, you understand what I'm saying, in the form of the Antichrist, right? Actually doing signs and wonders. You feel me? It's like
being permitted to do more.
Being permitted to do these things. Like it's not through his own power. You understand what I'm saying? But being permitted in the same way how the devil, if God permits, like with Job, you can harm this person, cause boils, all type of stuff happening, but don't take his life because God didn't permit him to take his life. It's going to be times when the devil is permitted to do the signs, and that's to your point in Revelation. So
Man, and
we're told that even on Mount Carmel with that showdown with Elijah, that if God had not specifically intervened and forbade Satan from performing something, that Satan indeed would have made it appear that fire had came down from heaven.
when
God specifically
when Elijah was with the prophet
going against the prophets of Baal. Yeah, specifically. But it's an imitation. It's a counterfeit.
it's a master imitation.
Yeah. If everything God has, Satan has a counterfeit. And this is just that. Notice even the you can almost call it, I don't want to say mediation, but medium, someone who represents and speaks for him. You have to go through this person to get to him, that's a counterfeit. For true mediation,
right.
our true mediator,
mediator,
right? No man cometh to the Father but by him.
I am the door.
Right. John, I think 9 verse 10. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved and shall go in and out and find pasture. We talk about the sanctuary. Notice the sanctuary has one door. There's no back door. There's no side door. There's no basement. It's just one door. There's one way in, one way out. And like you mentioned, Jesus literally said, I am the door. You know what I'm saying?
Mercy.
Right.
So no confusion about it.
Man, I want to go back to something like to finish off the verse you said in Isaiah 8. You read verse 20. I'm going to read verse 19.
Okay.
And it starts off Isaiah 8:19. And when they say to you, seek those who are mediums and wizards, and those who whisper and mutter, going back to when we was talking about how the medium, they do the and again, it's so funny that we see these things in cartoons and shows and movies growing up. You go to these people, they do the chanting and the humming and the thing, and But all this is historical and we don't even know it.
Nope.
But we see in the biblical time, we're saying like these people who whisper and they murmuring and this stuff, they channeling in these seances. But you say, should not a people seek their God? Should they should they seek the dead on behalf of the living? Then he say, to the law and to the testimony. If they do not speak according to his word, it is because there is no light.
No light.
In them.
What fellowship have light with darkness? Or Christ with Belial?
And that, I mean, that's just.
And that's the point where Saul is, right? But I mean, truthfully, bro, we see that I feel like there's a problem today when it comes to witchcraft and divination and spiritualism and stuff like that, because it's multiple angles that the devil attacking it. I feel like brothers and sisters who listening, I feel like it's important to understand what the Bible says about immortality of the soul, because if you understand that the soul is not immortal until Jesus returns, when the dead in Christ shall rise, you feel me? Like, which means they was already in the death, in the dirt. You know what I'm saying? If you understand that would close a lot of doors. You feel me? But if you think the soul is immortal, that opens a lot of doors to assume that we reincarnated into a different animal, you know what I'm saying? Or our ancestors is this and that.
You really open yourself up for deception.
Right. For a lot of deception, bro.
Yeah.
And you can see a lot of different religions, especially pagan religions, they do believe in our ancestors. A lot of people pray to our ancestors. You see that especially in black people, black communities, I'm sorry. They pray to their ancestors. They hold their ancestors to a great regard, and they deify their ancestors. You know what I'm saying? But that's a big deception. And this Saul thing, this thousands of years ago, but today, in today's society, regular people, Christian people just like us, grow up with every day. They believe in divination. They believe in witchcraft. Whereas people who are Adventists, born and raised, just like me, they believe in spiritualism. They believe in witchcraft. They believe in astrology. They believe in chakras and all of this and that. But truthfully, what's most interesting to me about that is you could find anybody who believes in astrology, chakras, this and that. The people who are actually the most devout do not believe in Christ. And you could ask them about it. You could ask anybody who deals in any type of witchcraft, this and that. Bro, the real ones, man, not the ones who do this casually and they playing. Bro, the ones who seriously devoted by this, ask them if they believe in Jesus. No. They do not, because they should not believe in Jesus if they consulting a familiar spirit that is not Jesus. You consulting the devil quite literally, but I don't mean it to be harsh, you know what I'm saying? Right. But it's not coming from Jesus.
It's what it is.
It is what it is. Because
just keep it 100.
Just keeping it 100, because Jesus, Moses, the Most High God, all in the Old Testament, they speak against witchcraft, against divination. Yeah. This story right here, if you're reading it casually, this might validate for you. Oh yeah, we could do this. Right. But you would completely miss that he was not actually talking to Samuel. He was talking to the devil. Right. And my thing is, bro, the devil, us human beings, bro, we are no match. No. We are no match at all.
Not in of ourselves.
No, not in of ourselves. You understand? So everything is multi-layered. If the devil knows that your grandfather used to come inside every day, kick off his shoes and stuff like that, and you miss him a lot, bro. If he could recreate that for you and have you thinking that your grandfather's and just pull on them heartstrings, bro, did we finish reading the chapter?
No, but I mean, keep going. Keep going.
No, because what I was going to say is that you look at some religions that require us to be like inebriated in some type of way. Like even like Rastafarianism, they believe heavily on smoking and stuff like that. See, these things, they don't want you to be of a sober mind. Saul was not of a sober mind. And not because he was inebriated, but because he was fasting. Saul was weak. Saul was weak. Saul had not eaten that day. Saul had done everything in his power to make sure he can get the victory over the Philistines. He had fasted. He consulted a medium. Right. And the thing about it is, you're so weak, your senses so diminished, right? Yeah. That all you hear was, old man, cover over his head. It's got to be Samuel, and you talking to him.
Man, it's like, I want to kill your point. To me, it reminds me of like Proverbs 28 verse 9 or someplace around there where it says that he who turns away his ear from the law of God, even his very prayer will become an abomination to God.
And I have other texts that actually
And
I have other texts to support that, bro, like from multiple places in the Bible, bro. Like,
exactly. And the reason why it came to me because you said he was quote unquote doing everything right until he got to the point where he's saying, I still can't hear from God. I need to do something else. And what gets me is like, you're fasting, but you already turned away from the law of God. So this is an abomination. Guess what you're doing it for? You ain't doing it because you really want to have a closer connection with me.
Right.
You just want me to save you.
Right.
Let's just call it what it is.
Self-preservation.
It's self-preservation at this point. You're doing this for your glory, not God's glory. And so that's an abomination to God. And so it's just interesting, man, because so many of us, right? It's not by like our own, you don't say that. By our own small foolish things that we do, we can separate ourselves from God. Like no Christian, I would hope, just sets and say, you know what? I'm gonna just go straight from God today. But it's the small choices we make. Okay, I'm gonna not wait on Samuel to show up to do the sacrifice. If I do it, no problem. Oh yeah, God told me to spare the Israelite, to kill all the Amalekites. Yeah, I'll spare the king and save the best for myself. Shouldn't be a problem. These small actions over time, these small sins over time, when you start putting, 1 Samuel 15 said it's 23, for rebellion is like witchcraft. And it's funny how the rebellion and the witchcraft came side by side in Saul's journey at this point now. For rebellion is like witchcraft. For pride is like idolatry.
right.
And all of them just came wrapped up, entangled in Saul's story right now.
First king of Israel, bro.
The very first king of Israel, the king of the people.
The king of the people, bro.
Keep in mind, they weren't even supposed to have a king.
Right, God was supposed to.
God was like, all right, y'all pressed.
Yeah.
So let's
You want a king? Okay.
it's almost like, God permits things to unfold, so that things can be seen for what they are. And in a sense, think about the great controversy. Think about all of this going on in this story, and everything else in the Bible, and even in our present day. God has allowed things to unfold for millennia, for a purpose. We don't always see that purpose. We don't always understand, but it's for a purpose. And ultimately, he'll get the glory. And as you mentioned earlier, every knee shall bow, every tongue will confess. Everybody's going to be clear on the fact that just and true are thy ways, O King of Saints.
Amen to that. And so I had one more.
Go for it.
All right, Isaiah 66, right? Verse 2. For all those things my hand has made, and all those things exist, says the Lord. But on this one will I look. So he's saying, this is the person I will look at, right? On him who is poor and of contrite spirit, and who trembles at my word. That's one point. I'm looking at people who are poor and have contrite spirit, right? Who trembles at my word, who humble them. Basically saying who humbles themselves before me, right? Verse 3. He who kills a bull is as if he slays a man. He who sacrifices a lamb as if he breaks a dog's neck. He who offers a grain offering as if he offers swine's blood. He who burns incense as if he blesses an idol, just as they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delights in their abominations. So will I choose their delusions and bring their fears on them. And it kind of goes on to explain that. So the thing about what I receive from that is that saying, you come with a contrite heart, I accept your sin offering. You understand what I'm saying? I accept it. But if you come into me without that contrite heart, if you come into me doing your own way, doing your own things and are rebellious, bro, even if you offer a bull to me, that'll be as if you offer a human sacrifice to me. That's detestable to me. This is Isaiah 66. Now, a few chapters before, I think it's Isaiah 64, it say, because we are unclean, our righteousness are as filthy rags.
Yeah.
Because you are unclean, it's the same topic. Because you are not coming with a contrite heart, even your righteousness is as if you given me a filthy rag. You understand what I'm saying? And that's Saul. And so Saul could fast all he want. You know what I'm saying? Saul could pray. Saul could try to experience a dream, all these things. But no, bro, you ain't coming with a contrite heart, bro. So you're not gonna get a response from me. You being performative right now. You just want to win. You just feeding into your idolatry, right? And so it comes to a point where, like I was saying, Saul, hypocrisy. Like Saul, his senses was diminished, right? So he was more susceptible to believing this unclean spirit or this impure spirit. In the same way, a lot of us are emotionally attached to some of our relatives, somebody who we really love, and this and that and the third. The devil could easily come and shapeshift. He could come as an angel of light, right? He was a serpent in the garden. The first time we see the devil, in this book, the first time we hear about him, he was shape-shifting. Right. Like he changed into something else.
Or using the serpent as a medium.
Oh, as a medium, right? You understand what I'm saying? And so if the devil could confuse you, right, into thinking that's your grandfather, for the rest of the time you read the Bible, or for the rest of your life, you think immortality of the soul. You understand what I'm saying? And that contradicts the Bible. So certain things you read in the Bible, you're not going to be able to accept because you're already convinced that when we die, we go to heaven or hell, or my grandfather is a ghost or a spirit looking down on me, XYZ. And that's a hard pill to swallow because truthfully, bro, it's like people we really love, people we really attached to. For sure. You know what I'm saying?
That's what the Bible says. If you love mother or father more than me, you're not worthy of me. You know? Christ has to come first. God has to come first.
And that's Matthew 10, right? Either 10 or 20.
Fact check me. But I know 1 Timothy chapter 4 says, now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and that word hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. The scriptures are a safeguard. The scriptures are a safeguard.
Yep. And so that was Matthew 10, verse 37.
Okay.
Because I remember that text. That text really stuck to me when I first read it. Yeah. So did we finish the chapter?
No, I think it's gonna just roll into next week. So I'm just gonna let it be because I know we're already pressed on time, and they literally just roll into each other. So we're not that pressed. Like I mean, because to me, that particular story in itself is such an important story, and it has so much elements that I don't want to at least. The rest of the story could shortchange it. Yeah, the rest of the story could. I mean, it rolls into. You don't know what happened. He got hungry. He almost passed. So they made him some bread, but we gonna cover it next week. Don't worry. But yeah, man, like it the deception of the devil, especially in the last days, in our current age. If you don't believe him in the last days, in our current age, the deception of the devil is so strong, and he waters it down purposefully so that you don't recognize it. And so I want everyone just to be conscious of that, because some of these things are way more widely accepted now than they would have been 20 years ago. They're put in more shows, they're put in more movies subconsciously, and we don't even think about it.
Right. Sure. Commercials.
Stuff
ain't got nothing to do with spiritualism.
Yeah. Exactly.
Insurance. Reese's.
Anything, bro. I was watching anime this week, and boy, it was a lot.
Oh yeah,
and they make it cool. I mean, for what it's worth. I mean, like just not like they make it cool
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining
to draw you in.
Yeah. Entertain.
Yeah,
we don't get into that though.
And so I just like not even to be deep or anything, but I just really want everyone out there just to guide your hearts and really understand what you're consuming through your eyes, through your ears, and what you're putting in your mind and what you're practicing. What you're practicing, because something that seems so innocent can have such a dark past. And I don't want people to be giving praise to the devil without even knowing it, or just justifying it because I'm not using it for bad. I'm using it for good.
But what is bad and good?
Good and evil, bro. But
is it subjective?
It's not subjective, bro.
Is it what we make up, or is it objective?
No, it's
what defines.
It's thus saith the Lord. It's the
you
word.
Exactly, the word of God. I mean, and my point, but definitely, like, man, just be conscious of it. I don't know if you could land the plane better than that. I know I really just landed just now, but at the same time, it's just like.
And there's a big. We wrestle not against flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, and so the way to defend against deception is with the word. That word have I hid in my heart that I may not sin against thee. Isn't it David who says that? Mm-hmm. So those should be our watchwords. the word. The goal is, for this to be a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. This will guard us against the wiles of the enemy, against deception. Simple, thus saith the Lord. That's how Christ engaged the enemy in the wilderness. Hadn't eaten food 40 days.
Right.
It is written.
It is written, mercy.
Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So even Christ utilized the word. How much more we?
So on that point, I think I get on it.
All right, I got one more thing to say right before.
Oh, no, go on.
Just pull your point.
Yeah.
And just the same thing we're just talking about, like, thus saith the word, thus saith the Lord. And I know a lot of people are there saying, yeah, but it's my truth. Guess what? The truth is not a respect of persons. The truth don't care what you think. You might think there is not a God, but that does not mean that God is suddenly just going to disappear. There is a God whether you believe in him or not. There's a God whether you accept him or not. God lives and God word does reign eternal. And so I just wanted to like make that point particularly clear, because a lot of people saying, again, come with that same argument that, yeah, God did this, but no, God already said it, and it isn't. God said it, and it is. It is what it is. So go, you can line it. Sorry.
So see, the very concept of truth is that it's not subjective. It's definite, definitive. Truth is truth. You understand what I'm saying?
change.
Truth. You don't change it. Don't bend. You understand what I'm saying? That's true. And so I just want to end with a parallel between Jesus and Saul. You know what I'm saying? So Saul was fasting because he wanted a breakthrough. He wanted to win the fight. His senses was down. He was defenseless. And he consulted a medium. The medium told him he wanted a message, and he got a message. Jesus too was fasting for 40 days. And Jesus didn't consult no one, but the devil appeared before him. And so 2 times, people was physically weak, right? But Jesus was able to triumph over the enemy, to Richard's point, because he leaned onto the Bible. Jesus did not take the time to argue with Satan. He did not take the time to give Satan a sermon. He responded solely, thus saith the Lord. Satan too was trying to do that. He misquoted the Bible even. See, and that's the thing. Bro, like the devil's, his deceptions it's crazy, bro. He could come to you as if he on your side, quoting the Bible to you, coming to you as if he's a person in the church, as if he's a spiritual leader or mentor, anything like that. However, in order to respond to the devil, in order to defeat the devil, you have to rely on thus saith the Lord, quite literally. So when it comes to spirituality or anything, don't take Nakhaz, don't take Richard, don't take Earl word for it. We are not God. We do not define good and evil, neither does any human being. The Lord does. And for us to understand what is truth and what is the boundaries for you to lean on, in order to find that, you have to search the word. You have to search what the Lord says and use that to rely on. Thus saith the Lord. After years of disobeying God's commands, attempting to kill God's anointed, and even killing the priests of Nod, Saul has now reached the point where God no longer communicates to him. And out of desperation, Saul consults a medium. All this because he was afraid to fight against the Philistines. But while he was about to fight against the Philistines, David is about to fight with the Philistines. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by Daniel and Naomi Bellamy, as well as your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.